Hello, my karmically connected friend. Have you ever lain awake at midnight, when your body is exhausted and craving rest, but your mind is still relentlessly racing with tens of thousands of unanswered questions? That is the state we often call overthinking, or thinking too much. It is like a silent yet incredibly fierce storm that doesn't destroy the external landscape but secretly hollows out the deep peace within everyone's soul. That invisible storm sweeps away positive energy, drowns the joy of life, and leaves us with such a profound mental exhaustion that we sometimes feel suffocated by our own thoughts. We are constantly preoccupied with worries about scenarios that haven't occurred in the future, or endlessly torment ourselves over matters that have receded deep into the past. But dear friend, please remember that the mind was created as a tool to serve us, not to become the tyrannical master that rules our emotions. To help you escape this weary loop, today we will listen to and contemplate 6 wisdom lessons from the teachings of the Buddha. These miraculous spiritual remedies will help you practice mindfulness, soothe the endless stream of thoughts, and reclaim the precious stillness that inherently resides in your soul. Lesson 1. Be in the present moment. To continue the journey of soothing the silently burning inner storm, let us step into the first and most fundamental remedy of Buddhism, which is the art of abiding in the present. Try to take a minute to observe your mind carefully to see where it is. Isn't it true that for most of the day, our mind is like a clock pendulum, ceaselessly oscillating between the two extremes of the past and the future? When you let your soul drift to what has passed, digging up old memories or mistakes that are already closed, the emotions will inevitably be endless regret and self-torment. Conversely, when you project your mind into an unarrived future with thousands of hypothetical scenarios, you only harvest anxiety and vague fear. The Buddha, the great master of awakening, once kindly reminded us through a classic scripture that one should not seek the past, nor imagine the future. The past is ended, the future has not come. Only the present, Dharma, wisdom, contemplates right here. That teaching reminds us that true life is only happening right now. To understand the power of returning to the present more deeply, let's listen to a small allegorical story about the journey of a certain master and his disciple. One day, the old Zen master and his young disciple had to cross a stream with a swift current after a heavy rain. The murky water surged, making the student stand on the bank trembling with fear. He worriedly looked at the fierce stream, then cast his gaze toward the other bank with a look full of confusion, fearing he would be swept away before reaching the destination. Seeing the student's mind agitated by the fear of a future scenario, the Zen master gently said, "Do not look at the whole wide river, nor bother to look at the other bank. Gather your gaze and only look down at your own feet. Your only task is to find a firm stone right in front of you, place your foot on it firmly, and then proceed to the next step. If you worry about the 100th step, you will slip and fall right at this very first step." Our life is exactly like that swift-flowing stream. We often stumble and sink into suffering not because life's challenges are too great, but because we forget to focus on the present step. We are too concerned with the distant destination and neglect the stone beneath our feet. The lesson here is simple yet profoundly poignant. Peace never lies in the dead yesterday, nor in the unborn tomorrow. Complete peace can only be found right in this moment, in this breath, and in this step. When you pour your entire focus into the task you are doing right now, the storm of thoughts will automatically dissipate and give way to a miraculous stillness. Lesson 2. let go of what you cannot control. Once we have learned how to place our full focus on the present step, we begin to identify the invisible burdens that we have been strenuously carrying all this time. This leads us to the second immensely important lesson for liberating the mind from exhaustion: learning how to let go of what you cannot control. According to the profound teachings of the Buddha, the majority of human suffering does not actually come from external circumstances, but stems from the mind's clinging and intense resistance to those circumstances. We often torment ourselves by attempting to bend reality to our subjective will, much like standing in the middle of a storm and shouting at the sky to clear up and the wind to cease. It is this desperate resistance to the inevitable that is the reason your vital energy is depleted every day. To understand this burden more clearly, imagine the story of a man exerting his last ounce of strength to push a giant rock up the sheer face of a high mountain. He grits his teeth, enduring, sweat pouring down, muscles tense, for fear that if he lets go, the rock will roll down and crush everything. But no matter how hard he tries, human strength is limited. He slowly becomes exhausted and falls into despair. Just then, a sage walked by and gently asked, "Why don't you step aside and let the rock rest at the foot of the mountain where it belongs?" When the man gathered all his courage, let go, and stepped back, the rock rolled down following the law of gravity, but he was completely liberated. A feeling of relief flooded his body and mind, a freedom he had traded away for his stubborn clinging all this time. In real life, too, before any difficult problem that keeps you awake all night, calmly ask yourself one key question: can I change this? If the answer is no, then your continued worrying is merely a form of useless self-punishment. Please understand correctly that letting go here absolutely does not equate to weakness, irresponsibility, or giving up. On the contrary, letting go is a supreme expression of wisdom. It is when you accept to go with the flow and place your complete trust in the arrangement of life. When you stop trying to control the vast external universe, you will regain the power to control the precious peace within your own small soul. Lesson 3. Live simply to find serenity. Once we have bravely set down the heavy rocks of futile control, our soul suddenly becomes extraordinarily light, ready to step through the third door. This is the door that leads to a lifestyle that might seem paradoxical in this bustling century, yet is the shortest path to reaching genuine happiness. That is the lesson on living simply to find serenity. Try closing your eyes and listening to the rhythm of the age we are living in. Aren't we being swept into a frenetic cycle where the concept of success is always tied to the word more? Modern society constantly injects into our minds the idea that to be happy, we must have more money, more relationships, more assets, and grasp more information. We rush around like moths to a flame, enduring crushing pressure. Our minds torn apart by thousands of phone notifications, and exhausted from chasing after superficial things that sometimes, once acquired, we don't even have the time to look at. Yet, ironically, the more external material possessions we own, the greater the desolate emptiness inside our soul becomes. Material sufficiency seemingly does not correlate with peace of mind. To decipher this paradox, let us contemplate a classic scripture from the Dhammapada, where the Buddha taught, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." This teaching is a wake-up call, reminding us that happiness is not a distant destination where we possess everything in the world. Happiness lies right in the way we walk, the way we breathe, and the way we choose to live simply amidst complexity. To understand the beauty of simplicity more deeply, we can find a wonderful parallel in Zen philosophy and the concept of shibumi from Japanese Buddhist culture. If Zen teaches us the art of eliminating the superfluous to focus on the essential core, then shibumi is a beautiful word used to describe unostentatious elegance. A life imbued with the spirit of shibumi is like a rustic earthenware teacup. It does not need elaborate, colorful patterns but retains the warmth of the tea, the longest, and brings the most peaceful feeling when held. That is the beauty of being sparse in words but profound in meaning, the beauty of a lifestyle that does not need to strain to prove its worth to anyone. Living simply in this spirit means that everything present in your life must have a genuine meaning, a purpose that nourishes the soul rather than filling illusory voids. So, how do we bring this noble philosophy into daily life? This journey begins by minimalizing the external living space and the internal mental space. Look at your home, which is supposed to be the most peaceful sanctuary. Is it being invaded by items you bought in a moment of impulse and then forgot in the back of the closet? A cluttered space often reflects a chaotic mind. Try purifying your living environment, giving away unnecessary things. You will find the air in your home flows more easily and your mind becomes much clearer. But more important than cleaning the house is cleaning the garbage in the soul, specifically letting go of the toxic habit of comparison. Every time you scroll through social media and feel jealous of the glamorous life of others, you are personally throwing more trash into the sanctuary of your consciousness. Remember that what others display is merely the tip of the iceberg, while your peace is the deep ocean. Do not trade your vast ocean for a few floating icebergs belonging to others. The core message this lesson wants to convey to you is that true peace never comes from accumulating more. It comes from the courage to subtract. We often mistakenly believe that we need this or that to be happy, but Buddhist wisdom points in the opposite direction. Subtract the endless desires, subtract the comparisons and calculations, subtract the superfluous worries, and subtract the flashy shells we wear to please the world. When you peel away all those rough layers, what remains is the most pure and pristine true self. Living simply is not about living in deprivation or austerity, but knowing how to cherish what truly matters and bravely discard the redundant so the soul can soar freely. It is precisely in that ultimate simplicity that the flower of serenity will quietly blossom. Lesson 4. Impermanence. All suffering shall pass. Once we have learned to live simply to reclaim the purity of the soul, perhaps at times you still feel unsteady when emotional storms suddenly strike, causing heart pain and a confused mind. This leads us to the fourth lesson, a lesson that is an absolute law of the universe helping you stand firm against all changes, understanding the principle of impermanence, to deeply trust that all suffering shall eventually pass. You know, when falling into the deep pit of anxiety and despair, the mind often falls into its own trap by mistakenly believing that this pain is permanent, that today's darkness will overshadow the future forever. But please look up at the vast sky for the answer. Is there any dark cloud that covers the sky forever without dissipating? Is there any downpour that falls ceaselessly without stopping? Human emotions and suffering are exactly like those drifting clouds. They come and go, gather and disperse according to the relentless law of nature's movement. The Buddha called this impermanence. Understanding impermanence is not meant for pessimism or sorrow, but to cultivate an undying hope that no suffering is immutable. Tomorrow the sun will surely rise again. To help you visualize more clearly how the consciousness should deal with adversity, let's listen to the highly allegorical story of the handful of salt and the lake. The story goes that a young disciple came to the venerable Zen master to weep about the suffering he felt was too great and unbearable. The old master did not rush to counsel. He quietly told the young man to scoop up a full handful of salt, drop it into a small cup of water, and drink it all. The disciple grimaced upon tasting it, spat it out, and exclaimed that the water was too salty and bitter to drink. The master smiled kindly, led him to a vast, tranquil lake behind the temple, told him to throw an identical handful of salt into the lake, wait a moment, and then scoop up the water to taste. This time, the young man cheerfully replied that the water was still perfectly fresh and sweet, without any taste of saltiness. That simple story contains a very profound healing philosophy. You see, the handful of salt symbolizes the difficulties, losses, and pain in this life. The amount of salt was exactly the same in both tests, not changing even a single grain. But why was the cup of water so salty that it couldn't be swallowed, while the lake water remained sweet as if nothing had happened? The difference lies in the capacity for containment. If your mind is small, rigid, and cramped like the cup, just a small bit of trouble is enough to turn your life into a bitter sea of suffering. But if you learn to open your heart, as vast as the large lake, embracing acceptance and tolerance, then that pain will dissolve into the immensity of your consciousness and become so small that it no longer has the power to embitter your life. The core message this lesson wants to convey to you is to place your faith in change. When you believe that everything is constantly transforming with the flow of time, your mind will no longer be stuck and stagnant in the swamp of anxiety. Instead of wasting energy trying to eliminate every grain of the salt of suffering, focus on expanding the lake of your own soul. When your heart is vast and still enough, sorrow will automatically dissolve into nothingness, and peace will remain. Lesson 5. You are not your thoughts. Continuing the flow of awakening, once we have learned how to expand the capacity of the heart to be tolerant of transient pains, now is the time we need to delve deeper into the root source of inner storms. We move on to the 5th lesson, a powerful, enlightening teaching capable of severing the chain of anxiety that binds you. That is the profound realization that you are not your thoughts. This is a statement that might sound strange at first, because we often equate ourselves with the incessant voice in our heads. We believe that every fear, every judgment, or every bad scenario the mind conjures up is reality, is precisely who we are. But please slow down for a beat to contemplate. If you were your thoughts, then when the thought disappears, you too must disappear. But the truth is that thoughts come and go while you are still there, still present and aware of everything. Imagine your mind is like a vast, deep blue sky, boundless and serene. And those endless streams of thoughts, whether happy or sad, positive or negative, they are merely like clouds drifting across that sky. Some days the sky is clear and cloudless. Other days dark clouds gather into a storm. But no matter how dark and heavy the cloud is, it can never stain the clarity of the sky. The nature of the sky is always emptiness and purity. You are that sky, not those impermanent clouds. Do not let temporary clouds obscure your own radiant true self. The Buddha once said a very profound teaching in the Dhammapada. Mind is the forerunner of all mental states. Mind is chief, mind-made are they. With our thoughts, we construct the world. This teaching is a strict but compassionate warning. The world you see, you feel, is largely a reflection of your own inner self. If your mind is swept into the vortex of overthinking, you are inadvertently coloring the world around you with the gray hues of anxiety and fear. You lock yourself into a prison without bars, built by your own negative thoughts. To help you practice the skill of separating yourself from the chaotic stream of thoughts, let us listen to and feel the metaphorical image of the pebble and the lake. Imagine your mind is a mirror-like tranquil lake. Every time a thought arises, it is like a small pebble plopping into the water, creating ripples that spread outwards. The biggest mistake made by those who overthink is that as soon as they see the ripple, they panic, rush into the water, and try to stop or flatten those ripples with their hands. They ask themselves, "Why did I think that? I must stop immediately." But you know, the more you stir the water with your hands, hoping to find peace, the more ripples you create, making the lake even more chaotic and murky. The behavior of the wise person is completely different. When the pebble of a thought falls, they do nothing. They simply stand on the bank and silently observe. They watch the pebble slowly sink to the bottom. They watch the ripples spread out and automatically dissipate into nothingness. They understand that the nature of the water is stillness. As long as they do not interfere violently, the lake will naturally restore its inherent peace. The core message here is to become the observer. Instead of saying, "I am sad," try murmuring in your mind, "I am observing a feeling of sadness passing by." This small change in language creates an enormous safety distance. It helps you realize that you are the master of the house of consciousness, while thoughts are merely passing guests. Do not invite those uninvited guests to stay too long, nor chase after them to keep them. Just let them come and go according to the natural law, while you remain peacefully self-reliant, in the position of the clear-sighted observer. Lesson 6. The breath, the anchor of mindfulness. After we have learned how to separate ourselves to become the clear-sighted observer of the endless stream of thoughts, perhaps you will ask yourself how you can maintain that position of observation without being swept away when the emotional storm strikes too fiercely. The answer lies right within yourself, a priceless treasure that we have possessed since our first cry at birth, but often forget in our busy lives: the breath. We move on to the 6th lesson, the lesson about the magical anchor that keeps the boat of the soul tethered to the shore of tranquil reality. Using the breath to cultivate mindfulness. The breath is not just a biological function to sustain life. In Buddhism, it is likened to the single bridge connecting the body and the mind. When your mind is wandering and lost in the regrets of the past, or lost in the frightening scenarios of the future, your body is still here, right now. And the breath is the strongest kite string to pull the mind back to reunite with the body. Only when the body and mind are unified are you truly alive. Imagine savoring a cup of tea to understand this simple miracle more clearly. If you lift the teacup to your lips, but your mind is busy calculating tomorrow's unfinished work or irritated by something someone said yesterday, you are not actually drinking tea. You are drinking your own worries, calculations, and afflictions into your heart. The subtle, delicious aroma of the tea is completely forgotten by the mind. But if you know how to bring mindful breath into it, breathing in deeply, knowing you are lifting the teacup, breathing out gently, knowing you are savoring the tea, then at that very moment, life awakens. You and the cup of tea become one complete unity in the present moment. That is mindfulness, the complete and profound awareness of what is happening right now and right here. So specifically, when the storm of overthinking strikes fiercely, causing your heart to race, your limbs to tremble, and your mind to become chaotic, what should you do? Treat the breath as your safest refuge. Do not try to use thought to fight thought, nor analyze why you are worried. Simply stop all activity. Gently close your eyes and focus your entire attention on the tip of your nose or the rising and falling of your abdomen. Feel the cool air flowing in and the warm air flowing out. Breathing in, I recognize my mind is agitated. Breathing out, I smile with tolerance toward that agitation. With just a few deep and slow breaths like this, you will find your heart rate calming down, your muscles relaxing, and the fog in your head gradually dissipating. Please engrave this in your mind. Every breath is a door always open to welcome you back to peace. Whenever you feel lost in the jungle of thoughts, return and take refuge in the breath. As long as the breath remains, life remains, and the opportunity to reclaim serenity is always there waiting for you. My dear friend, the journey of letting go of the habit of overthinking to reclaim balance is not a matter of a single day, but requires persistent and patient practice every day. Let us consolidate the most precious provisions we have contemplated today. That includes learning to abide fully in the present moment, bravely choosing a simple and serene lifestyle, having the wisdom to penetrate the truth of impermanence, and most importantly, knowing how to rely on the breath to anchor the mindful heart. Please always trust that you absolutely possess enough inner strength to step out of the inner storm and find a peaceful sky of your own. If you feel that these sharings have touched your heart and brought you relief, please joyfully give the video a like to spread this benevolent energy further. Share it with friends who are struggling out there, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can continue to hold hands and walk together on the path toward an awakened, serene future. I sincerely pray that your body and mind may always be peaceful, and all things auspicious may come to you. Goodbye, and I look forward to meeting you in the next videos.